a lot of these women, they deserve the smoke. They weren't here when this stuff was popping off. The ideas, the concepts were getting molded, tweaked, finalized. And I put that in quotation marks because some of the concepts, they're not accurate as they are stated by a bunch of content creators. A lot of people mess up the 80-20 rule. And like I said in other videos, I will be, hopefully in the next couple of days, releasing the video that talks about the 80-20 rule and Courtney Michelle's interpretation of it. Okay, now let me go ahead and name some names of the hit pieces I will be doing on the females, and then I'll shift to the males here in a little bit. So some of the women that are on the list, and they're on the list for different reasons. Courtney Michelle, Not So Erudite, Real Femme Sapien, Just Pearly Things. Now, you guys that are in the Manosphere, because I do have a bunch of supporters that are part of the core Manosphere, you guys know who those names are. But they're not the only ones. There's going to be some other ones that get that work. There's this woman by the name of Samantha Lee, and she was the former wife of this R&B singer by the name of Tyrese. He was more big during the late 1990s, early 2000s. He was a fairly big artist during that time period. He's been in a bunch of movies. So it's beyond comedy that a woman that raked him through the divorce courts, she comes to this space and she could say, well, I'm not part of the Manosphere. At the end of the day, if you're using the same talking points, if you're talking to men about dating, at some point if you don't want to say you're in the Manosphere, you're adjacent to it. You're outside, just outside the bubble. But it's comical that she comes over here to advise men with that type of background. And she's not the only one. See, a lot of females, like Real Femme Sapien, Just Pearly Things, they didn't go to Kevin Samuels to try to figure out, because they got a consultation from Kevin Samuels. They didn't get a consultation to figure out, to try to get married. Okay, do this and this and this and this. They essentially went to him to learn how to grift. Okay, hey, Kevin, what am I doing wrong with my channel? What am I doing wrong? Oh, I want to be part of the Manosphere. Okay, it is what it is. Whatever. They paid the money, they got the consultation. So, with Just Pearly Things, she's over there memorizing all the talking points. And what she did is she actually went through a PUA boot camp, this dating coach by the name of John Anthony. So she took his boot camp. She paid the money to be in his boot camp in order to pick up on the phrases, all the different stuff when it comes to the Manosphere. Now, someone like her, I would like people to explain to me why she doesn't deserve that work. A lot of people have been giving her that work because of her comments on race. There's been a bunch of people that have been smoking her. A bunch of guys that were close advisors to Kevin Samuels. One of those people, O'Shea Duke Jackson, he's been giving her that work in dozens of videos. See, a woman like her, she thought she was just going to come to the space and she was just going to grift. There's a lot of people that paid a very steep price for the Manosphere to be where it is. I paid a very steep price to gain the knowledge about women that I present to you guys in these videos. They never got a Glock pulled on them. They never got cheap shotted. And the time I got cheap shotted by a dude, it wasn't that I actually deserved it. There were times in the past where I did deserve it by certain guys because I didn't know what I was doing and how to flirt, hit on women, the right times, all that stuff. But the time that I got cheap shotted, I didn't deserve it, okay? But if I had got hit in the right place, right here on the temple, because supposedly you get hit in the temple, it could kill you. I mean, I could be 6 feet underground. All the different content creators that had their channels banned in the past because these type of conversations, women would just flag the channels, and YouTube would take them down. So then a lot of guys would have to build their new channel straight from scratch. And okay, if they had a big enough reputation, then some of those subs would carry over to their new channel. Sometimes it would, sometimes it wouldn't. So there's a lot of these women, they weren't there when these conversations were being had. They didn't go through all the different issues that guys go through in terms of dealing with women to learn this stuff. They weren't in comment sections, they weren't in blogs 5, 7, 10 years ago like I was. They weren't on Reddit forums, they weren't on returnofkings.com. And you guys that are familiar with my content, I've referenced that guy before. Basically, it was a website. It's basically defunct, but it was a website of this PUA by the name of Roosh V. ROOSH space V, right? So when he was running his website, he had all these different methods so people could pay him, right? Okay, consultation, or hey, if you want a book from me, this is how you're gonna pay for the book. So he had all these different payment methods where people would pay him, all these different ways. But here's the catch. All these women went out of their way to sit there and get those payment methods banned. So all these different people, PayPal, all these different companies I've never even heard of. hey, cancel this guy. Don't let him use your payment methods, your payment processors. Don't allow him to use those different payment processors for him to get money. Okay. Now, I would like someone to explain to me why these women that didn't go through all these problems, why they shouldn't get that work. Real Femme Sapien, Just Pearly Things, Samantha Lee. Oh, okay, here's the next one. Here's a good example. This is one female that the Manosphere isn't real familiar with. She's got some shots taken at her, but a lot of people don't know who she is. But let me go ahead and talk about her because she's going to get some special attention as well. Her name is On the Block with Jen. Okay, so in fairness to her, she talks about a bunch of different stuff. All right, so she talks about Manosphere, she talks about trending news, she talks about race. So she does mix it up, in fairness to her. But when she discusses the Manosphere, she has a big mouth. And one of the biggest issues I've ever had is people that have a lot to say, but they don't know what they're talking about. She doesn't understand the male experience. Like a lot of women, she's a hypocrite. So I'm sure she's real vicious in judging guys' looks, but she has an issue with the whole hitting the wall concept. So basically, and I'm not joking when I say this, a lot of people go look it up. I mean, really and truly, you can't really look it up because it's really hard to find, but she's half a century old. Okay, cool, whatever, doesn't matter. And it goes back to the whole concept of maintaining leverage over guys. A lot of women they don't like these conversations that men have because a lot of women want to maintain leverage over men as long as possible. Because once women start losing that leverage, it makes their life more difficult to get financial security, to get a guy to provide for them, to get guys to sit there and make their lives easier. And that's kind of the standpoint that On the Block with Jen comes from. So it isn't like, see, the problem is a lot of these anti-Manosphere people that critique it, and haters, call them whatever you want to call them, if they came with legitimate critiques and they could sit there and really come with it in a real way and really analyze the information and break it down in a real way, the flaws of it, they would be a little bit more useful to the conversation. But that's not what they do. They come troll, they come harass content creators. They sit there and they talk shit. They think they're doing something. Oftentimes they're not. They're not doing much of anything. Same thing in a similar way, not the same way, but in a similar way. I mean, they're pretty worthless to the conversation. Just like Real Femme Sapien, just like Just Pearly Things. We don't need you idiots to repeat our own knowledge, our own words.
I'ma tell ya, half these niggas out here ain't even lightin'. They just sit back, watch and plot you and try to bite ya. They keep eating my shit up, so I guess they like it.